Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to just say a few words, and then unfortunately I will have to get out. So this book, I guess I'm the culprit who chose this book and then subsequently did not reread it as I promised to, although I want to. And I will also say I am still reading. I have not given up on La Calle, which is Dr. Otero's book, Dr. Otero, who spoke at our conference. Still working my way through that one. But I picked this book because I really do like the way Paolo Bacigalupi writes. I think his genre is known as cyberpunk. I think that's what.
Do you really? Dystopian science fiction, but
I think that, let me see. I'm gonna Google this and see if I
don't mean to interrupt you, Kathy.
No. My formal introduction. Okay. His breakthrough, or his first book, I believe, which I read, it was called The Wind-Up Girl, and it's billed as cyberpunk, which I've never really understood cyberpunk, to be honest. Neil Stephenson, I think, is like the pioneer of cyberpunk. And I don't really, I mean, aside from, this concept of, featuring computers as, part of the plot line, and having a dystopian element, and then also having an element where past and present are kind of compressed, almost like in a playful way. I mean, kind of like steampunk in that sense. I mean, I don't know, but I think I just picked up an article. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find it. Oh. Oh, it's not gonna let me. Sorry. I'll go back to you guys. I really do like the way he writes. He has not written much. This book never came out in the United States in paperback. I don't know if I've tried looking for it myself, couldn't find it. But do you have it in paperback?
Yeah, I got it from Changing Hands.
Oh, really? I went to Changing Hands and couldn't find it.
Well, no, I had to order it through them.
Oh, maybe.
And they got it, from their warehouse. But yes, I did get it in paper from them.
Okay, fantastic. Well, then I'll start giving it to people. I think that one of the facets I love about this book, and I'm not remembering the details of plotline and protagonists particularly well, but what I do remember is the picture of a dystopian phoenix that it paints, which I delight in. I think there's a lot of schadenfreude for those of us who live here, who are intelligent beings and really, understand what's going on here in terms of the big picture, the longue durée. And so I mean, I love dystopia. So Dystopian Phoenix, it was a hoot for me. Although I'm being dark when I say that. But what I also really appreciated was the role the tribes had in this dystopian universe, which is related to power. And power equals influence, and power and water being sort of at play here. And that for years and years and years, white folk have controlled water and have, with the sort of order of preemption, just decided that they are first in line, while the tribes are left to have to settle their rights in court, some of which have not been settled and probably will never be settled. Or I should say they are settled but not adjudicated. And I had a friend who described to me that there's a fine line between that. Settling is like, okay, we'll agree to disagree. Here's what you got. Versus adjudication being like, this is definitively a legal opinion that this is your water rights, your right to water. Right. So I love the vision that in the future, the tribes have the power because the tribes have control of water, that they have not squandered their water and have held on to their water, and that gives them some element of agency. And I found that particularly interesting. So anyway, I wanted to bring this book to a preservation audience so that we could understand not just water in the West and what lies ahead for us if we don't get a handle on water in the West, but also some of the colonial versus indigenous power dynamics that are at play. And Donna is such a good sport. She is always up for a different genre. And so she volunteered to moderate. And so thank you, Donna. So Donna, it was funny. I was saying, I have to go on the call today because I have to introduce Donna. And I think Eric said, can't we just agree that Donna is a woman who does not need an introduction? And I said, yeah, interestingly enough, I think we can all agree to that. But for those who need the introduction, Teresa, I don't know if do you know Donna personally?
The first time I met her was the last book club meeting that I attended.
But I know of you.
Of me?
Of you. Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, my.
Well, I work with Jim.
Days?
With Jim McPherson for a long time. So, yes. And Lonnie Lott, it's.
And Teresa, we still have to get that cup of coffee. I've been meaning, let me write that down again. After the holiday.
I had a 2.5-hour meeting with Ariana.
What?
Did
I set you up with her? I did, didn't I?
Fabulous. We just met Friday.
Isn't she great energy?
Yes.
She really is. She is a light. Okay, I'm making a note. Okay, so sorry, Donna, the woman who needs I will say this about Donna. Donna is a doctor, Donna. She's a doctor of education.
Oh, no.
I thought it was education. Sorry,
Doctor of humanities.
No education, cultural humanities.
Cultural humanities, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought it was education. Okay, cultural humanities. So yeah, now I don't know what you did with that degree before you started working in preservation.
I really focused on women of color in the 20th century in the arts.
Okay, well, there you go. So yeah, Donna she does have this arts intersection. I know that you sat on the City of Phoenix Arts Commission for a while before moving her interest over to preservation, and then sat on the City of Phoenix Historic Preservation Commission and got herself a supplemental master's degree from Goucher College in historic preservation, and is a retired person, but who really behaves as if she's not retired because her work with the Arizona Preservation Foundation is pretty much a full-time job. I mean, she is running these webinars, she is planning for our conference, she is doing all of the logistics that are necessary to run a 501c3, and we are very much in her debt. And she also continues her advocacy through participation in APF and also the post-war.
It's a post-war, whatever, and Preserve Phoenix.
Post-war Architecture Alliance and Preserve Phoenix, which is a fledgling non-for-profit that is intended to serve advocacy in the immediate Phoenix and Phoenix metro area. I should also add, what was I going to say?
Oh, in my spare time.
She does consult. So she does prepare National Register nominations and contributes to reports, and then apparently is a columnist in the Arizona Republic on occasion.
Okay, on occasion, but my latest thing is I play in the Phoenix Pioneer Band.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So Bob Graham of Motley Design Group started a band of it's pretty ragtag. I don't know. I like what's
that's how it started originally.
Yeah, preservationists, old people. It's very old.
Young people.
There's no young people.
Yeah, no, there are young people.
Who?
I mean, you probably haven't met them, but there are some people in there that I'm definitely old enough to be their mother.
Okay.
And it may be approaching grandmother. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So last time I saw it, it seemed like.
Yeah, no, we've got a few young people.
Okay. But anyway, what would you say your band? I mean, it's like a true band, like Philip Sousa or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, we try to replicate the music that the original Phoenix Pioneer Band played.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a pioneer band. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they call themselves, the Phoenix Pioneer Band.
So you're like reprised.
We're reprised, yes.
Okay, that's great. Well, so anyway, she's a cool, interesting person, and Teresa, you seem like a very cool, interesting person who I need to get to know better. And I'm so glad you got a chance to meet with Ariana. So there's your
Yeah.
introduction, Donna. And now you can talk about the
Very
book, Teresa.
Very
Well,
much.
There's a
Donna,
Teresa. You go by Teresa, right?
Teresa, right. Thank
Teresa,
you. Thank you for that correction. Before Catherine leaves, I just want to jump in really quick, Donna, if you don't mind. I think you all know Vic Linoff from the Mesa History.
Absolutely.
He was just named Mesa Citizen of the Year, and he will be honored in February. And if you don't have that information, I'll be happy to forward that to you when the invitation comes out.
Please, please do. Oh, that is wonderful news.
We have been trying to get Vic nominated for years, and I'm very pleased that he made it this year.
That's great. And I am so pleased that Mesa is bestowing him with that honor, because he has been what's the word I'm looking for? Vigilant.
Yes.
About
persistent.
Persistent about preservation issues, and Mesa has had quite a few in recent months. Yes, that's all I'll say about that. But he has been very vocal, very candid, and this certainly raises the profile of when Vic Linoff talks, people should listen, even though when Vic Linoff talks, sometimes I just want to die. I want to curl up, but other people should listen. For sure.
Well, you know, you can use that for the next conference in case he's one of the speakers for the awards.
Oh, that he's Mesa Man of the Year?
Speaks, you know, for 2024.
Yes.
And you can say, when
Vic,
Pinnock speaks, you should listen.
You should listen, yes. So Vic is also a board member of the Arizona Preservation Foundation and has been on the conference planning committee, and is really, you know, his opinions are valued, and he's been a key role, plays a key role. Teresa, we have set the date for our new conference, our next conference. It's going to be June 25th through 27th in Prescott at the Hassayampa Inn. And the conference theme is planning the past, preserving.
No.
What?
Preserving the past, planning the future.
No.
Yes.
It shouldn't be. Well, then you switched it around on me, because the idea is that we're planning for the past.
You don't plan the past.
Yes, we do. I gotta talk to Eric, because that's my theme, and I'm sticking with it. We are planning for the past, and we are preserving the future. And you need, like,
I like that.
It is.
Well,
it turns it on its head.
We used what the Prescott's theme is.
No, so their theme is that, but we're reversing it.
Okay. Well.
Okay, so so now I know I gotta attend these meetings. I'm gonna send an email to Eric right away. No, the idea is that the future is not something that just happens, right? We can plan for the future, but there is elements of the past. There are elements of the past that need to be preserved into the future. That's what we're doing. We're preserving for the future, planning for the past, preserving for the future.
Okay. All right. Well, talk to him, because we changed it.
I am. I'm doing that right now before I even talk to my husband about
thing you came.
Yes,
I have so many thoughts.
All righty. Okay, well, good to see you guys. It'll probably be a short discussion because there's not that many folks, but they missed out. So there's that.
They missed out. Yeah.
I think it's the holiday. The holiday is just killing everybody this year. I feel.
I don't know. We got a webinar on Thursday too.
That's right. That's right. Eric's introducing that one.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Hope you have a better day tomorrow.
Thank you. I hope so.
Well, one of the things that I will say, Teresa, is that I moved here in the summer of 1982. Having grown up for most of my life in California, and lived in greater Santa Barbara area, and actually lived at a time where we had water restrictions. Most people wouldn't think of that, but yes, we did. So I was very surprised when I moved to Arizona and discovered that there were absolutely none, zippo. Well, fortunately for wherever I've lived, I've always just kept applying those, lessons that I learned when I lived in California. And then in 2003, and I'm gonna put up I've got to share my screen here. Okay. Okay, where's the start? So I love this picture because, can you see it? The water moves.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know it's crazy things, but in 2003, SRP celebrated its 100th anniversary, its 100th birth. And I worked at the Phoenix Museum of History, and being one of those people that's always loved history, I was the director of education, and I'm going, I don't know a whole lot about some of this stuff. I had to do all this research. And oops, wait a second. Ooh, wait a second. I'm going to have to put a stop on this for a minute because somehow, oops, I'm not doing that right. I'm going to have to unshare my thing. Just wait a second here. What has it done to me? Oh, I see what we did. Yeah. I goofed in when I put a lot of stuff here. Oh. And two. Mhm. Well, we'll get there. Okay, I'm going to go back to you. It's still not going quite in the order that I want, but we will again share my screen. So we're going to get that lovely water. Okay. Okay, back up here at the beginning, got the water. So we got the water again, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, in this, okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, I hate when they do these. I found this, and this is 2003 data, and I found it to be most interesting because I had absolutely no idea where our water came from.
Ah.
And I remembered finding this because they talk so much about the CAP, and they also talk about, the lower Colorado. And one of the things that struck me is that Peoria will be the city that will be the greatest up a creek if we lose CAP water, because in 2003, 70% of the water came from CAP.
Wow.
I mean, whoa, I don't know what it is like today, but that struck me, and I'm thinking, oh, well, he never mentions Peoria, and we know about Phoenix, but it's just like, certain places, they do have their own water. Scottsdale has groundwater. Phoenix has only a little bit of groundwater, but 63% at the time were coming from SRP. And I just felt that, hey, this is kind of cool. Now, you're the water wrangler, but one of the things that was a problem, and I'm going to flip here and I'm going to come back. Last month, the New York Times started doing this, series, The Causes and Consequences of Disappearing Water. And I thought, oh my gosh, this was just very apropos as I am reading this book. And I'm just going, oh my gosh. I just took the front off of that one. And then this is, and this is, I'm not quite sure how to spell it. I mean, to say it's Muanak from Uzbekistan, but it used to be a port on the Aral Sea, and you're just going, oh. Again, it kind of reminds you of some of the things that he was describing, Bacigalupi, in that. And then they also, as the further descriptions on this, oops, we're going to go back. But the big thing that I found that was quite interesting is when we had this wee little battle over the Parker Dam.
Wow.
And this is a fight between California and, of course, Arizona.
And
these,
this when?
pardon? And this is in 1934.
1934. Okay.
And what happened was that California is doing all sorts of things and it starts building this dam. And I believe it was Governor Moore. I mean, we were absolutely, ultimatum is issued, 14 days given California to desist.
Wow.
And we had the Arizona militias called out, the National Guard, and then, oops, I'm gonna have to go back. Oops, 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 oops. Parker
I
Dam.
need to get your PowerPoint.
Well, the things got in mixed up, and I'm just not gonna help it.
That's okay. I just need to see these slides.
Can you see it?
Well, I'm on my phone right now, but I mean, I can see
You
them,
know
but
what?
I'd love to have,
I can send them to you.
that'd be great.
I have it. And then I actually did a whole thing on what I referred to as water in the Arizona Navy. So the Arizona Navy is being called out. Well, you know what the Navy was Nellie Bush. And this is one of the two boats. It was one of her ferries that she used across the Colorado at where the Parker Dam is going in. And that was our Navy. And she was running patrol.
But who was she?
Nellie T. Bush was quite an interesting woman. I think she may be in the Arizona Women's Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure she is.
Mm-hmm.
She did a lot of things. She was into, I think, law and being I don't know if she was a judge. I think she might have also done journalism. She just did a lot of different stuff. She was just a really bold woman.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so it reminded me while I'm reading this story, I'm going, oh, well, that's happened, because you're thinking about where it's Maria. She's going to try and cross,
Yeah.
river. And I'm thinking, yeah. Of course, I'm also thinking of what they've done to the Rio Grande in Texas. But
Yeah.
So I just, it was this whole thing about the issue of water and how spot on he is in this, even though I don't know about that cyberpunk stuff either. Dystopian, yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know. Anyway, that's all the things. It's just really short, and I will stop it. But yeah, I can put them back in the right order, and I can send it to you because I do have.
I would love to have that because we, as water wranglers, love to hear about the history of water and some of the fights going on. So I'll be happy to share those with my colleagues with your permission.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like I said, I did a whole PowerPoint. It was about an hour long, 45 minutes long, that I did at the Beatitudes. And again, they were kind of fascinated with this whole idea of water, because when I had been at the museum, I had really gone through and made a very long timeline of all the water issues, including, the Kibbe decree and all that, and where that whole thing where Catherine was talking about, the Native American issues is, we base our water rights on first in time is first
Right.
in time,
Right.
but only if you were white, kind of thing. That
Right.
was really kind of sad. And explaining that to people, how you could have actually been at the mouth, and if you were first in, right, it didn't matter if you were up at the headwaters, you were at a creek, if because they had the first call generally that
Right.
wasn't the way it is. And then talking about the auction who, were really successful in a court case, and aren't the San Carlos?
Yes,
They're still fighting over that, aren't
I
they?
think that's right.
Yeah. And so I look at this book, and I don't know how you look at it, but I look at this as really being somewhat prophetic, that, and this could be true.
I call it a cautionary tale.
Right. And
It could be true unless we take certain steps.
yes. And I've always been bothered by SRP as saying, well, we planned this, and I'm going, did you plan for a 20+ year drought?
Well, it's so interesting because in the book it says there's a little paragraph in there that said, Wesley Powell sat on the banks of the Colorado and he knew there was not going to be enough water. And in fact, when we do our training as water wranglers, they tell us that the estimation of the amount of water to be divided in the future was based on incorrect data.
Yes.
And that's why I see this as a cautionary tale, that it doesn't have to be this way, but because we didn't learn, or we didn't take the lesson of people before us, we are now perilously close to this situation that we read as a fiction, piece of fiction.
Yes. And I mean, you think about all the fiction that we have read, and all that stuff has kind of come true. I mean, it's 1984 and Brave New World, this.
Right.
Okay. Well, would you, I think he's somewhat visionary in that respect, because he didn't know, I mean, it's not that old of a book, but he didn't know all of this stuff that has happened, let's just say, in the last 5 years or whatever, and the legal issues that we keep fighting over. How much, when you swear that you have 100-year water supply?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And you're going, and for how many people, and how many of you can claim that they're using that same 100-year water supply?
Mm-hmm.
But I found it, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I was surprised how it ended. How about you?
Yes, that's one of the things. I had to go back and reread it because I first read it in 2015.
Okay.
And it stuck with me. And I had my husband read it, and I had my daughter read it because I was so struck. And one of the things I appreciated by the author is him referencing these other books that talked about this, the Cadillac Desert.
Oh, yes.
As being sort of a seminal book that everybody needed to be aware of. And, just like, the work of the woman who sort of started the Earth Day movement, the Silent Spring.
Rachel Carson.
Rachel Carson. I mean, these are such powerfully written books. And I don't know, like nobody paid attention. What happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. Nobody paid attention to a lot of those books that we have just kind of mentioned. Yet, at least the Cadillac Desert and the Silent Spring were, nonfiction. But they're not paying attention to the nonfiction any more than they're really paying attention to the fiction. And one of the things that I noticed, and I remember doing a lot of things where I was looking at mystery writers and mystery writers that were women of color. And one of the things that they said is that they could get away with saying a lot of things in a fiction book that they could say in an interview.
Right.
And so I often look at those books, these books like this, and say, boy, he's really saying a lot. No,
Mm.
no, nobody's paying attention because it's fiction.
Right. But I mean, it's an entertaining book as well.
Oh, yeah.
As you say, the ending is so, there are so many twists and turns to get to that unexpected ending. And that final ending is sort of the ultimate twist.
Right, right.
And yet the ending, as Maria's sitting on the bank and she talks about remembering being in an environment where she could hear water and she could feel the moistness in the air. The ending harkened back to a time when there was water. And like all of us, it just caught us by surprise when all of a sudden people started talking about not having enough water. That was one of the things that struck me when I sat in. I went through the first water wrangler training in the fall of 22. And I remember that the woman that was speaking to us was sort of the head of the City of Phoenix Water Resource Division. And she'd been with the City of Phoenix for like 20 years. And she said, you know, we have been so proud of the planning that we've done to plan for the drought and to plan, you know, alternative water resources and reclamation and so on. And she said, but things happened so fast. She said, I never thought it would get this bad this fast. And her voice was shaking. It was remarkable to hear this woman who spent all this time in water resources for the city and was so proud of all the planning that they've done to ultimately say it came so much sooner than we ever thought it would. It was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and my thing was, if she's planning, she hasn't experienced it.
Yeah.
And that's where I say, and mine was really, you know, was kind of much minor than other places have experienced, but the county would not allow you to build a house if there was not already water to the house, to the property.
Wow.
And then, you know, we were only supposed to water between these hours, or, you know, you couldn't water between, I think,
Right.
like 11 and 4 or something like that. But they also assessed, I don't know, really, they surveyed houses. And, you know, where you see this big pyramid of all the water bottles, and this is how much water you use every day. And I'm going, well, not hardly. But they did a survey and they wanted to know the number of people that live in the house, how many, not so much bedrooms, but how many bathrooms.
Bathrooms.
And then there would be, I think, maybe the washer and the dryer,
Right.
pool or something like that. And then they figured, based on maybe the square footage of your house, what should be the average amount of water that you used. Which was really quite interesting. Now, if you could keep for 6 months straight under that average, then they rewarded you with a refund.
Oh, okay.
Not more water, just a refund,
Okay.
you know, monetary refund. I was never able to do that because I never used that much water. Didn't have, you know, maybe had 2 bathrooms, and I didn't have a washer. I went to the laundromat. I think.
Well, they've told us, and I've seen actually various reports from the Sierra Club that said that 70% of the water use in single family homes is outside the home.
Yes, exactly.
Landscaping.
And here's what I do. I have rain barrels.
Wonderful.
But I mean, they're limited, and if you're not getting rain, you're not filling them up. I reuse. I don't have a washer, but and my dishwasher doesn't work. So when I wash in a little pan. And everything that I rinse, that rinse water, I put out either on my potted plants or big shrubs, anything that I know it's not going to be damaged. I never put it on my vegetables, things that.
Right. Don't put gray water on the
Yeah.
things you eat. Mhm.
But I grow my own sprouts, and that's clean water actually. And
Yes.
I do is like, so it'd be about 10 cups a day when I'm growing it. Those all go on the edible plants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, and I have lots of plants as far as that goes. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what you can do.
Are you part of the City of Phoenix water
Yes.
system?
Yeah.
I should send you this survey that we just got from the City of Phoenix Water Resources Department. They are partnering with ASU, and they're trying to disperse this survey very widely about water harvesting.
Oh,
And
okay.
I would love to have you complete the survey. I don't have your email, but if you,
You'll get my email when I send you that.
great. And I'll send you the survey, and you can go through it, and it talks about, rainwater harvesting, and, which would you rather have, desert landscaping or, green grass? How do you feel about desert landscaping? Really interesting questions. And we're trying to get it dispersed as broadly as we can. So I think, and they recognize that Phoenix's historic neighborhoods, use a significant amount of water. That's why Ariana came to talk with us about the project she's doing about how to modify the landscaping in historic properties or in historic neighborhoods. So
Well, I live in a
interesting.
historic neighborhood.
Pardon me?
I live in a historic neighborhood. I live in Coronado.
Uh-huh.
And my trees, fruit trees, they get watered. The
Uh-huh.
native trees, they don't get water until it rains.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, I don't have grass because I don't want to cut it.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, I wanted to mention another thing that struck me about the book, because I just have been rereading it over the last couple days, and the author includes the observation that these alternative housing developments, these vertical
Right.
towers, if you will, that are being built by, I think, the Chinese.
Right.
And he talks about how they have learned to use all sorts of methods to create this sustainable environment, that everything is recycled, reused. They capture the methane so they can, regenerate energy. They capture the wastewater, and then they filter it out, and, all these different things. But in another part of the book, and they say that the Chinese are always looking at the people in the US and saying, we don't know how to take advantage of what's in front of us. We just keep consuming and consuming and consuming and not reusing. But in another part of the book, the man who befriends Maria, Toomey, right? He talks about other cultures, and that look at the United States and they say, you folks would rather go it alone and go down trying instead of getting together, joining together. And that was a really interesting comment about the cultural aspect. And he said in Arizona, people came from so many different places, it was hard to create community.
Yes.
And in the work that I did before I retired, we did a lot of community organizing, and it was the communities that were the most cohesive were the communities that had a strong cultural identity, primarily Latinx. And we didn't have as many, the native community did not have so many geographically defined neighborhoods. They were cohesive in other ways. But I thought that was a really interesting observation, because what we know, or what we've seen from the data, is that people move in and out of neighborhoods, houses, Arizona, every like 5 to 7 years or something like that. People hang on to their cars longer than they stay in one place in Arizona.
Yeah. And I have moved a number of times since I came here, but I've been in this house a little over 20 years, and that's the longest I have ever lived in a house. I mean, my parents moved a lot when I was young because my father was in the service.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
And then when we settled down, then I was only in 2 houses. No, actually I was in 3 houses that in that environment. But it was such a small town, it didn't make that much difference from moving from one side to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. And it's kind of interesting when I look at if I just look at my block and myself, I think there are 2 of us now who have been there. Well, maybe there's one more. We've both been here 21 years. We've both moved in on this block. There was somebody that was longer and he's moved on, and then some of the people have died and stuff like that. And there are other people that are newer, but have been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, the rentals.
Yeah. Well, and you look at other trends, and I think of Arcadia, where people are going in, they're buying up the old 1940s, 1950s bungalows. Maybe they had a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and they are building these McMansions. I mean, McMansion light. I mean, they're not as big as Paradise Valley, but they're a much larger footprint than those original small homes in the
They're doing
Arcadia.
the same thing.
And so now you're increasing the number of bathrooms that you have, increasing the number of bedrooms. That puts a greater drain on the water supply. So we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot. But Arizona's always been about growth, always been about bigger, better. But I think the governor's efforts with the new water advisory board, I'm hoping they're going to close these loopholes that allowed wildcat subdivisions to circumvent the 100-year requirement. I hope.
Well, I
don't
hope
know.
so too. I don't know. But, when I'm reading this book and I'm going, oh, yeah, look at that. I know that. I know a neighborhood that happened, they got cut off.
Yes.
Water. And so you think about it, we've got real examples just
Yes.
here in the valley that prove that
Absolutely. You look at Pinal County, where the aquifers are gone. They have no groundwater. And yet Casa Grande is approving development of housing, and they're avoiding the 100-year restriction by creating, and not just single family homes for sale, because those won't get approved, as we've seen in Buckeye. They're converting them into single family rentals. And that allows the developer to say, I'm not covered by the 100-year requirement, presumably because renters move and they don't have to supply 100 years water when you never know who the population. I don't know what that is. I don't know that's rationale.
I realize that is really, really weird.
It's called the build to rent phenomenon. And actually, a year ago in December, the state legislature held hearings on what are the barriers to creating affordable housing in Arizona, affordable housing being my industry. And one of the people who testified was with the Arizona Multi-Housing Association. And he said, we have all these pesky regulations that we have to meet to build housing in Arizona. And that's what makes it so expensive. If they would just let us build what we want, where we want, how we want, then we could make it more affordable and people could move into these houses. Yeah, but there's not going to be enough water. They're not going to put in sidewalks. They're not going to put in street lights. They're not going to put in fire hydrants. Yeah, it'll be less expensive, but at what cost?
Well, and of course so many of my friends, many of them are retired and some of them are, they're getting there, and we look at these places and all these things that they're building downtown. And, some of what I think about is there the water pressure to get that water all the way up there?
20 stories.
Yeah, I'm going, I have enough and I have 1 story and I'm, worried about the water pressure. And, but then you look at that I discovered that there's a very small apartment complex about 3 blocks down from my house.
Mm-hmm.
I have 1,200 square feet, single family home. Okay. that was 600 square feet, 1 bedroom, and they were asking for 1,800 a month.
Yes.
And I'm going, well, that's 3 times, at least 3 times more than what I'm paying for a house in my
Yes.
neighborhood. I'm going, I mean, I can't afford to move.
Yes, I can't either. I'm in do you know the Villa del Coronado?
Sure.
That's where we live.
Oh,
And
okay.
we-
Well, I go by there. I have some friends that live there. So.
John Jacquemart lives here.
Oh yeah, John. Yep.
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 And,
Never looked up.
and none of us can afford to move because, you know, the HOA fee that we pay since we bought our units outright, there's nothing in the valley that we could afford for the HOA fee that we pay.
See, and
Not-
for me, because I no longer have a car,
Mhm.
my neighborhood, Coronado, is serviced by 5 bus lines, which
Yes,
is
it's great.
plus the light rail.
Yep.
And the only other neighborhood that has that is Garfield. They have
Mhm.
5. And
But Garfield is a little bit far from the light rail,
yeah, I mean, well, see, for me,
but it's well
a-
served by buses.
it's a half mile, 6/10 of a mile to the light rail stop. And I'm
Uh-huh.
on 8th Street. But yeah,
I'm on 3rd Street, so it's just down the road a piece
yeah,
from me.
yeah,
Yeah, very close.
yeah.
But that monstrosity on 7th Street and Oak, that it's taken them 3 years to build and they just keep adding units.
We
Oh my-
haven't really figured out what's going on, and I've kind of watched it. And I swear there have been times where there weren't more than a dozen men working.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Maybe.
saying. I mean, I was trying to count them. It seems more, I mean, I see all the cars because I have to walk that way.
Yeah.
Light rail. But yeah, you're going, and it's piece of crap.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not.
if you look at the development on Camelback and Central,
Oh, yeah.
Southeast Corner used to be a bank. Now it's a high rise being converted into residencies. They're in bankruptcy.
Yes, well, there's one downtown too that they were adding on to. It's
Oh, yes. Ex Phoenix.
yes, and they've gone under, so that
That's only been a couple years.
that portion of it is finished, and there are people in it,
Yes.
but the new thing, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize the next part was done. My daughter did the murals in the first building.
Oh,
One
okay.
of the murals that is in the
Yeah.
first building.
Yeah, well, the first building, as far as I know, that's
Occupied.
yeah, that's occupied.
Yeah. Well, we're off topic from the water knife, but sort of the same.
But it is sort of the same because people are looking for things, and you know, the people that, I mean, what was it? The Mary Terrys? What are they? What was
That
it?
Mary Perry's.
Terrys.
They're from Texas. They're sort of religious.
Yeah, I was going, oh, what's that? And I'm going, oh, the Mary Perrys. And I'm just going, oh, who do I know that is a Mary Perry? But anyway, it was just kind of funny. But the, you know, the people that were coming up from Mexico, I mean,
Mhm.
we do have those issues. They're coming up for, you know, better jobs, maybe even cleaner water, education for kids, who knows? I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why they
Mhm.
are coming. And then the people that live even further south than Mexico and
Right.
into Central America. And so, you know, all of that stuff, you're going, oh, well, yeah, this is believable.
Yes.
I have a little problem with the Chinese making those things and doing all that recycling stuff because they don't do that in China.
Well, there are some stereotypes that he has. He uses he sort of uses fairly loosely.
Yeah, but you know, that phenomena when you know, the financial center, and when the architect, his name was Sarmiento, when he was designing it, he had intended to have these, instead of their square, you'll see them, the anodized bronze, but he wanted to have tubes, and he wanted to run water up those, so it would help with the cooling of the building. And the engineer at the time said, no, can't do that. You know, it'd be interesting to see if that today, what an engineer would say when you've got
Yes.
somebody that is somewhat visionary in considering, oh, you live in a desert, it's hot. You know,
Yes.
this is the way things, you know, should be situated and stuff. And he also had intended originally around the domes or the rotundas to have water ponds that would
Mhm.
help in this, you know,
Cooling. Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, it's challenging because in our industry, in development, you know, there we have a saying, the greenest house or the greenest building is
Yeah.
one that already exists. And I think of something like the bank building in downtown that was the tallest building in
Yeah.
Phoenix
What
and
did
is
they do?
now, pardon me,
What's happening to it?
it's empty.
Well, I know
It's
it.
and there's a fence around it, and I have no idea what they're going to do to it, because if you try to retrofit those into residents currently, you're going to have to meet all the standards that are currently in place. And so you think, okay, well, let's just tear it down, but that's not sustainable either. You want to take advantage of the new technology and the new, you know, all of that, but it's almost like it's an unsolvable problem when you're talking about commercial space that is that big and has such an impact on our skyline
Mhm.
for downtown. You know, and we saw that with again, Toomey, Maria's protector. You know, he was building houses, he was building spec
Yeah.
houses,
Right.
and he couldn't sell them when the city cut off the water. There was no way to
Yeah.
sell them. And
Right.
so you think about downtown Phoenix, you know, the pandemic really put an end to people coming into the, you know, central business district for work. Now they're working from home. That's why these banks are closing their buildings, because it doesn't pay to keep those big spaces open. But what do we do with them?
Right. Well, and then the next thing is, yet they turn around and build these residential things. And I'm going, I mean, they claim, you know, they have, you know, high occupancy, but I'm going, they're slipshod.
Yeah, well,
They, you know, I had a friend that lived in 44 Monroe, which
uh,
originally was going to be a, you know, a converted building, and then you know, whatever. And I mean, there are so many problems with that. When she lived there, they actually said you can't go out on your balconies because of the way the railing was done or whatever, and it was no longer safe and
oh
use.
my gosh.
And then I think the pool was closed for 2 years or something while they were trying to repair some kind of, you know, leak. And I know where the Stewart is. Have read that people said, yeah, the pool leaks there, and there, you know, in the apartments
So
below.
many complaints about the steward. So many.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting with this monstrosity, which is wood.
Yes.
And you're going, and I know one of my bus drivers one day, it was before they started building all the apartments, he goes, what is that? I said, that's the garage. We're
We
waiting.
said the same thing, that big hole in the ground.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
We said the same things.
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so, you know, I have to commend him in putting together something that is so real or so
Mhm.
plausible.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if Las Vegas is really up to, you know, cutting us off, but I never trusted them. But
Well, I got to tell you, I love this book. I've always loved this book. But when I heard that it was going to be discussed at the Arizona Historic Preservation Foundation book club, I was a little concerned because I remember there's a great deal of language, violence,
Mhm.
attempted rapes, murder, all sort of
Yeah.
torture. And I was kind of concerned what kind of reaction that would, but I thought there might be more people discussing
Well,
this.
yeah, maybe there should have been more people, but sometimes my sense is does that help move the story along, or is it something that, oh, your editor said you got to have a little sex in there to help sell the book?
Yeah, right.
And I felt that that was much more realistic.
Mhm.
The violence, the murder, um, the maiming, whatever, even the rapes. I think that yes, that is very realistic.
And especially because so many were coming from Mexico, where with the cartels, that's exactly what's happening.
Right.
That's what people live with every day.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
and I can't imagine having to deal with that.
oh, it's awful.
No, I'm sure it is. I mean, you just sit there and you're going, I mean, I'm not, I'm not even sure. I mean, I know women who have had abortions. That doesn't bother me, but I don't know any woman who has ever admitted that she's been raped.
Uh,
You know, and that's not to say that that hasn't happened to some of the people I know, but in some ways, I see that as not something that they are as much likely to mention as the abortion,
mhm.
if that makes sense.
It
And so,
does.
in this case, I felt that that violence really helped move the story along. It made it it made it more realistic in the sense that this could happen. If you're fighting for your life and you're fighting over water, no holds barred.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was interesting what you said. Women seem to be more willing to talk about an abortion rather than a rape. And I think it's because an abortion is your choice and a
Mhm.
rape isn't.
Yeah, true.
So
That's
it's
a good point. Yeah.
you're able to exercise your agency in the one situation, and in the other situation your agency is completely taken away from you.
Right.
And it's hard to admit that, I think, in domestic violence situations as well. It's hard to admit that you don't have control over that situation.
Well, I'm
And
much more, I had an abusive first husband, and I'm much more aware because there were really no help in this
yes,
kind of thing. And I didn't have the best relationship with my parents who lived in another town and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of so I mean, I will say that I had an abusive husband. And in part now, I'm more aware. I take blood thinners, and so I get bruises.
uh-huh,
Sometimes I have, don't even know it's because they don't hurt. And I
sure.
just remember some woman that I casually knew because we rode the same bus, and she just very quietly said, "Are you okay?"
Oh, wow.
And I thanked her because
Hmm.
I don't know that I would have said that a long time ago. Now I
Yes.
would. But,
Hmm.
I said, yes, I really am. I said, I take blood thinners and I just really bruise very easily. I said, I'm not in a relationship, so it's hard to be abused.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but I thanked her because a lot of people would never do that. They don't want to get
Absolutely. That was wonderful. That
Mm.
was really an expression of sisterhood.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Very,
And
very much.
and we didn't even know each other's first names. We just knew each other and always chatted on the bus,
Yes.
shared books, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, certainly the violence provided motivation for a lot, at least the two main characters,
Mhm.
um, the journalist as well as Maria. Uh, how they saw the world, how they perceived the world. And yet what was interesting is that what's the journalist's name?
No, I was going to say Jesse, but that was the other book that I was reading today. Lucy. No,
Lucy.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Lucy was really hardened by those experiences. And they talk about that. You know, she wanted things to go back to the past. Sort of, she had an idealized version of what life could be like because she remembered that. Whereas Maria didn't want to talk about the past. She was very angry what somebody said, sort of like the good old days. They don't exist anymore. They'll never exist anymore. She was absolutely focused on surviving in the situation that is, you know, today. I just found that those two characters with such similar experiences with violence had such very different attitudes or perspective about the present.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I think we see, and I'm sure in your water wrangling talks, is that you find people with those two perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And to one sense is Maria's correct. Those days will never exist again.
Mm-hmm.
At least what she remembers, what she senses that those days were like.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember working with college students, and I said, well, you know, when I die, I'm going to come back as a smart athlete and I'll just sail through college and, you know, yeah, whatever. But I mean, you know, it's now I sit and I going, oh, I really would like, I'd like to be here just to find out what things might happen, what might transpire. You know, is it going to be as dire as
Bleak.
and bleak? Yes, as I might imagine,
Mm-hmm.
or is there going to be a change? You know, it may not be a dramatic change, but it's kind of a reversal, or a country has an epiphany.
Yeah, exactly. One can only hope.
Yes, yes. So anyway, I really enjoyed this book, and this year I'm usually either historical fiction or his nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not into um, science fiction and dystopian.
Uh-huh.
Not, I mean, maybe, but I have read, I think, 2 science fiction because of book clubs, and you
Right.
know, this one, and then we did the Jemison book,
Uh-huh. The city
and
we named, that's where I joined.
I'm just going, oh my gosh! And then I read the next one.
Which one? Oh, the second volume of that one?
Yes, it's not another person who that had read the first book, and he read the second book, and he said he felt that it was kind of flat, and I would agree. I mean, it lost something. She
Mm-hmm.
lost the edginess because it's with the same characters, but
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, there was something.
The monsters weren't as menacing.
Well, I don't even know if it was the monsters. Did you read the second one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what the problem was. The monsters weren't as menacing. It was too cliche,
Uh,
I think, for me. But again, I'm really stretching. Really stretching. I mean, I at the preservation conference, I bought 2 new books. The one that La Calle by
uh-huh.
Donna Reiner, and then there was another. I don't know if it was a woman archaeologist or what, but it was another. I read a lot of books about and in the yeah.
Have you, I read one just recently called, oh gosh, it was about the 2 women botanists who were the first women to go down the Colorado River.
Oh, and I don't know if that's the one I got, but did you read the one about the Forgotten Botanist about Sarah Plummer?
No, where was,
Lemon, as in Mount Lemon.
oh, in Tucson.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But she was a self-taught botanist,
Oh,
and
wow.
she and her husband kind of floated back and forth between California and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
They had horrible health problems, both of them.
Oh,
And they were doing all this climbing and hiking and camping, and you're just going, oh, I thought you were sick. I thought you were on your deathbed. But yeah, it's called The Forgotten Botanist. I don't remember who wrote it, but I think it was an Arizona author. What impressed me was that because she spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara, she started the first public library there.
oh,
But
wow.
she's also the woman that helped get the California poppy to be the state flower.
Oh, wow. That's great. I love that flower.
It took her 10 years.
Wow. You,
Legislature liked it, the governors didn't. I don't
oh,
know. But now, if you really want to read another interesting book, it's called The Empress of the Nile. And it is about a French woman who, and it's nonfiction, an Egyptologist.
mm-hmm.
And she had worked in the Louvre. She was involved in the resistance. And then after the war, she came back and started doing a lot more stuff in Egypt. But she was one of the pushers and movers and instigators and pushers and movers to get the Abu Simbel and many of the other temples and tombs removed before the Aswan Dam was finished
Oh,
and
wow.
flooded.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and it came out this year. I found it, I think I saw it in the New York Times, but the library had it.
Ah, that sounds fascinating. I only read ebooks
Mhm.
because we moved around after I retired. We moved between Europe and Mexico, and
Right.
there was no way I could take.
Oh, no, well, I'm down to I'm not reading ebooks, but I still like to have that book in my hand.
Yes,
But I do the library for the most
right.
part.
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
Borrow it. Yeah, 14 days to finish it. It's very motivating.
Well, you know what? They don't charge now for fines.
Don't tell me that. I
I-
need that motivation.
Oh, it's
But
3 weeks too. You can get it for 3 weeks
but
sometimes.
you know what? If for an ebook, that it doesn't matter. If when your time's up, it just disappears.
It cuts you off.
It does. And in fact, I tried to go back and check this book out, but because it was already on my electronic book list as having been finished, they wouldn't let me check it out again. I actually had to go buy a book.
Oh, that's weird.
I know. I felt it was very fair.
I haven't, well, I haven't encountered that. I did do some audiobooks when I have a cochlear implant, and after I first had it activated, I listened to a book and it was so slow, and then somebody says, you can speed it up.
Oh,
I mean, I'd never done one before. And you go, yeah, you can speed it up. I'm going,
I think
okay.
it's hard for me to do audiobooks. I don't know. I'm a very visual person, and so it's hard to.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't.
there was a book that I facilitate a book club at the Beatitudes, and I had them read this book. And it's an Irish author, although it takes place in the US. And one of the people said she's visually impaired. And so she said, yeah, it was a person with an Irish accent. She said it was so, interesting. She said, I just felt like I was really there because one of the characters was Irish too.
Yes.
Well,
Which book was it? Do you recall?
yeah.
Was it one of the McCord brothers?
No. It's Days Without End by Sebastian Barry.
Ah, okay.
It's a really strange book because why is an Irishman writing about the Civil War and the Indian slaughters and all this kind of stuff? And you really feel like you get to know how dirty and awful and things would be in the West. So
Uh-huh.
you've got this young Irish boy, and you've got a young Indian or part Indian that become best buds, and they're homosexual. But you're going, that's really quite plausible. I mean, people wouldn't have talked about it, but
Right.
it's not real. But the depiction of the slaughter of the Indians by the army as they joined the army. And then there's some battles, the Civil War battles, and you're just going, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a brutal book, but it was very interesting.
Those stories need to be told.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
It just seems so strange for me because he's a very accomplished writer, lives in Ireland, but apparently I did some research on him and he had actually taught for a short time in, I don't know, Iowa or someplace like that. So he might have, really used that time to figure out something about some of our history.
Mm-hmm. So do you use any, well, you're not reading online. Well, I think it doesn't matter. There's a program that allows you to sort of keep track of the books you read and share it with others. Good read.
Yeah, I know about that. I've never kept track. And then I have a little free library in my house on my property. And so sometimes things show up there.
Uh-huh.
That I never.
I'd love to see some of the books that you've read, and Goodreads is the only way I know how to access other people's libraries. So,
oh yeah, well, maybe I should start doing that. I can go back, because I have a lot of strange books.
well, do we know what's going to happen in 24? Have we talked about?
We have not, and at the rate things are going right at the moment, since I'm kind of the sole person that's doing this, we've had some suggested books, but I think I'm going to take January off.
Good plan.
Good plan. And then, because I've got a webinar this week, and I also do that stuff, but at least I have somebody who helps me. And then we have a webinar, which Vic is doing, he's one of the presenters they're doing in January. And then we can do February and March. And then I'm going to Egypt, and then we'll do something in April.
Oh my, okay. You have a busy
Part
of the year.
But I mean, it's, I every once in a while I'd say, well, I think we should really read, and Catherine goes, no. So, no. And I made a list because there was people on one of the Facebook pages that's historic preservation professionals, and they were just going, well, what book would you recommend, that you really must have on your shelf? And so I was writing all those down, and I can't figure out what I did with the list.
Oh no.
So, I mean, I'll have to go back and, and find it, but there were some books that sounded kind of interesting. And, we certainly have read a lot of fiction this year.
Good.
I mean, and I think sometimes, as I said initially, is sometimes you can say something in a fiction book that you wouldn't your character says something that you wouldn't say in a nonfiction book.
If you have a list of the books that you've read this year prior to my joining you in August, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think, you know what? And we may have you looked at the APF? We have a YouTube channel.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And I think there's some, I'll double check. I'll check. I'll let you, I'll fill you in.
Okay. Thank you. That would be great.
Yes. Well, look at that. We almost talked for a whole hour and a half. Well, I can talk and you can talk. Fine. Too bad all those people didn't come.
I know. I sent invitations. I sent one to Jim McPherson. I sent one to, do you know Taz Lumens?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Taz Patri? I sent it to Taz. She said, oh, this sounds really interesting. I sent it to a couple of the water wranglers I know. I thought they'd be interested. So I'm disappointed that they didn't show, but that's okay. We had a great conversation.
Yeah, we had a great conversation. We got to know each other a little better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now you should tell them that they really should read this book.
I
mean,
will.
It's real food for thought, actually.
Yes.
And, you try to picture this, because we know things that are, if you say, these things have happened, that Rio Verde section, that wild,
Yeah.
they cut
Oh,
that up. Hey,
yep.
and we see the water lines on, the lakes and stuff like
Yep.
that. So,
Yep.
and
We can relate.
we can really relate. And one of the things, and I'm sure you say that, I mean, California amuses me that every time they have these huge rainfalls, they're going, oh, we're out of the drought. And I'm going, no, a one good year is not out of the drought. You're going to have at least 3 to 5 years that's going to get you out of it. And then you're still going to need to be careful.
Yeah. I just got, you just blanked out a minute. It's because my battery's low. So I guess that's a sign.
I guess so. Okay. Well, I'll be sending you some stuff.
Wonderful. I look forward to it. You take care and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.